As we have already discussed, the Seoul Central District Court has ruled completely in favor of ADOR in its legal battle against NewJeans, and rejected all 10 of the group's claims for contract termination, all of them. And the court determined that ADOR did not violate any major obligations under the exclusive management contract, and that the trust between the parties had not been destroyed. And as a result, NewJeans' termination notice was declared legally invalid, and ADOR retained full management authority over the group. Now, we have already gone through a lot of Korean news articles about this court decision, but sometimes you have to go back to the original source, which I always prefer. I always look for the original source and read up. Because no matter how many summaries or headlines you read, nothing beats reading the actual judgment itself. And a lot of people have been asking for something that explains this case from start to finish. Like every claim, every argument, and how the court actually interpreted it. Well, I think this document does exactly that. So in this video, over the weekend I have read and translated the entire 30-page, 40-page long court document. So we will go through that in English. And frankly, I think the Seoul Central District Court did an incredible job summarizing the entire dispute. They clearly laid out ADOR's position, NewJeans' position, NewJeans/Minijin's Heejin law firm's position, and then walked through their reasoning step by step. And it's one of those rare legal decisions that not just decisive, but also easy to follow, even for non-lawyers. Although easy to follow, I don't know about that because it's already too complicated. Anyways, and if you think about it, this ruling is probably worth millions in terms of financial values, considering the kind of legal fees that both sides have been burning through in this battle. So you're basically getting for free what each side's top lawyers have spent months trying to argue. That said, I still see some Minijin supporters spreading the same nonsense online, and maybe this will help clear things up. Though honestly, I doubt they will even watch this video or read the full document. And I know at this point, everyone's tired of this case, but it's important because it's one of the most consequential cases in the history of the K-pop industry. And hopefully, it will serve as a lesson so that something like this never happens again, which is why I think it's worth going through the full decision together. And since the document is pretty long, I will try to minimize my own takes. I've already talked enough in my previous video. Okay? So let's start from the beginning. But before that, after the court made a decision, ADOR made a full statement. So let me read this for you first. I have already translated Heejin law firms representing NewJeans, the statement that they have made. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through that first, but this one, full statement from ADOR. Today, the court ruled in the lawsuit between ADOR and our artist NewJeans that the exclusive contract between both parties remains valid. The court determined that ADOR did not violate any obligations as a management company, and that attempts to create the appearance of a breakdown in trust in order to escape the contract should not be permitted. We express our sincere gratitude for the court's decision. Since the artist claimed to terminate the exclusive contract last November, ADOR has responded carefully throughout the process, including filing the main lawsuit to confirm the contract's validity, seeking an injunction to prevent confusion before the court's main ruling, the court's acceptance of the injunction, the artist's immediate appeal, and the subsequent dismissal of the appeal. Over the course of nearly a year, the court has repeatedly ruled in various related cases that ADOR holds the status of management company under the exclusive contract, and that the artist must carry out entertainment activities together with ADOR. After such a long process of verifying numerous claims and facts, we sincerely hope that today's ruling, which once again reaffirms the same conclusion, will also serve as an opportunity for the artist to calmly reflect on this matter. ADOR, too, will once again remain itself of the duties and responsibilities, will once again remind itself of the duties and responsibilities required of a management company under an exclusive contract. As we stated during the trial, we have completed preparations for NewJeans' upcoming full-length album and other activities. We will do our utmost through dialogue with the artist to ensure they can return to their fans soon. Yeah, lots of things I want to talk about, but we got no time. So bring your tea, coffee, wine, whiskey, whatever you like, and let's get through this document. All right? Seoul Central District Court, Civil Division 41, case number 2024 Kpop 113399. Action for confirmation of validity of exclusive contract. Judgment delivered on October 30th, 2025. Overview of the case. First of all, parties involved. Plaintiff, ADOR, with CEO Lee Do-young. Oh, by the way, in the original documents, it uses like English alphabets like A, A-F, N, A-I, O-P to substitute the actual names of the parties involved, but I have already replaced using the real names. So just letting you know. So for example, CEO of ADOR in this case is Lee Do-young. She was appointed pretty recently, right? Kim Joo-young, the previous CEO, Kim Joo-young, did a phenomenal job since last year. Represented by a team of 9 attorneys, many of them Kim and-jang. Defendants, 5 NewJeans members, Minji, Hani, Daniel, Herin, Hee-jin, represented by law firm Sejong with a team of 10 attorneys, if I counted correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 attorneys for ADOR. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, 9 for NewJeans as well. Cool. All right. The hearings concluded on July 24, 2025, and judgment was delivered on October 30th, 2025. Operative part of the judgment. Disposition. It is hereby confirmed that the exclusive contracts entered into on April 21st, 2022 between the plaintiff and the defendants are valid and in effect. In terms of litigation costs, to be borne entirely by the defendants, meaning NewJeans. NewJeans have to pay for the litigation costs. So in other words, the court formally recognized that the NewJeans members remain under binding exclusive management contracts with ADOR and that the contracts were not legally terminated by the defendant's notice. Now, background, facts, and contact structure. For this one, so it lays out all the background facts, including key terms of the exclusive contract. For this part, I will do a semi-summary because otherwise this video will end up being like 2 hours long. But once we hit the court's decision / interpretation of each side's position, I will do like a almost word for word translation. Okay. So in terms of the key terms of the exclusive contract or background facts, here it is. The judgment basically begins by establishing the foundational facts about the parties' relationship. So ADOR is a HYBE affiliate engaged in music production, record distribution, and artist management. And the defendants are members of NewJeans, which is an idol group formed under ADOR's supervision. And between 2018 and 2021, all 5 members trained as trainees under Source Music. This is important. Source Music, another HYBE subsidiary. After ADOR's establishment on November 2nd, 2021, the trainees were transferred to ADOR, where they continued training in preparation for their debut. On April 21st, 2022, each member signed a separate exclusive management contract granting ADOR full and exclusive control over their entertainment careers. The court document reproduces key provisions to define the legal framework of the relationship. Okay? And here are some key terms. Article 1 of the exclusive contract. Article number 1 is about purpose. The contract's primary aim is mutual growth and benefit between ADOR and the artist. The artists must work diligently to develop their talents and protect their honor as entertainers. ADOR must manage their careers faithfully, safeguard their personal rights, and help them achieve artistic success. Article 2. Grant of the exclusive management rights. ADOR is granted exclusive global authority to manage all entertainment-related activities of the defendants, including scheduling, negotiation, and representation. The artist may not, without prior approval, engage in any entertainment activity or business transaction independently or through third parties. ADOR must exercise its authority in good faith, considering the artist's welfare and privacy. Article number 3. Contract duration. The contracts last 7 years from the release date of the group's first album or digital single, establishing the industry standard exclusive term tied to debut. Article number 4. Scope of entertainment activities. It defines a broad scope, including music-related work like singing, performance, broadcast appearances, and acting, modeling, and voice work, advertising, or any activity using the artist's public image, and other related professional engagements. And disputes about activity classification must be resolved through mutual consultation. Article number 5. ADOR's rights and duties. ADOR's responsibilities cover all aspects of career management and production, including providing training and education, handling contracts with third parties, promoting and advertising activities, managing income from entertainment work, planning schedules, producing and distributing content, and offering all other necessary professional support. ADOR acts as the artist's exclusive agent in external negotiations and must explain contract terms unless circumstances require urgency. The artist must respond to proposed arrangements within 24 hours. Silence or participation implies consent. Artists must respect ADOR's managerial expertise and avoid unreasonable refusals of work. The clause also explicitly prohibits ADOR from violating the artist's privacy or demanding any unrelated or unjust payments. Article number 6. Artist duties. Artists may not sign or negotiate with any third party on similar contracts or perform entertainment activities outside ADOR's authority. They must promptly notify ADOR of any external proposals. Article number 8. Trademarks. ADOR may use and register the artist's names, likeness, and related marks for business purposes and licensing during the contract term. Article number 9. Publicity rights. ADOR holds the right to use and sub-license the artist's images, names, voices, and other identity elements commercially for promotional content and derivative works. Article number 10. Ownership of content and IP. ADOR owns all content and intellectual property resulting from its investment and production involving the defendants. This includes co-created projects and digital artist content. Works developed independently by ADOR without using the artist's image or IP belong solely to ADOR. Article number 11. Infringement response. ADOR is authorized to take legal or commercial measures at its own cost to defend the group's image, IP, or publicity rights from infringement. Article number 13. Warranty clause. ADOR guarantees that, at the time of signing, it possesses adequate human and material resources to fulfill its management obligations. Article number 15. Termination and damages. Termination may occur only for material breaches, and the non-breaching party must allow a 14-day grace period for correction. If the artists terminate the contract without cause or materially breach it, they are liable for damages and a contractual penalty equal to, check this out, average monthly revenue from the past 24 months multiplied by remaining months of the contract. This clause reflects ADOR's significant pre-debut investment and prevents unilateral withdrawal after fame or success. And then it also includes ADOR's service agreements with HYBE. So the court also summarized the business unit service support agreements, BU service support agreements between HYBE and ADOR, which was executed on November 12, 2021, which defined ADOR's reliance on HYBE for certain shared corporate functions. So, duration initially until June 30, 2022, with automatic annual renewals unless either party gives 30 days notice. And in terms of scope of services, HYBE provides management support services for ADOR, divided into routine services like standard back office support without separate requests, and project-based services, which are performed upon ADOR's specific request. And among these, PR and communication support services were key, enabling HYBE to assist ADOR with like domestic and international media coordination, and article drafting, translation and editing, and design and visual production, and event organization and publicity planning. So this framework established ADOR as a semi-independent label operating under HYBE's corporate infrastructure. So I think those of you who are interested in HYBE's like internal structure and network, the early part of this section, the judgment's early sections, it lays the groundwork for understanding the relationship between ADOR, HYBE, and NewJeans. And I'm pretty sure the contracts might look pretty similar for other artists under HYBE. In fact, this might be like a standard type in the industry. So first of all, the court viewed ADOR as a legitimate, fully functional management company operating under HYBE's broader structure, but with distinct contractual authority, right? So the contracts were highly detailed and legally sophisticated, reflecting standard K-pop management agreements, emphasizing exclusive control, long-term investment recovery, and IP ownership. And the presence of explicit clauses on mutual consultation and artist privacy and good faith management, it shows that the court interpreted the contract as balanced but enforceable corporate agreements, not as exploitative arrangements. And yeah, overall, I think these contract terms make sense. So when ADOR sought judicial confirmation of validity, these early contractual terms became the legal foundation for the court's eventual decision that the contract remained binding and the defendant's termination notice lacked legal effect. Now, the next section is factual developments and arguments of the parties. Okay, basically what has happened for the past several months or couple years. Okay, first of all, it goes all back to the debut of NewJeans. The court records that around July 22nd, 2022, right here, the defendants officially debuted as the 5-member girl group NewJeans. And their first album, NewJeans, was released on August 1st, 2022, and achieved historic commercial success, selling 262,815 copies on the first day. Did I say it right? 26만 2,008. Yeah, there we go. And setting the highest first day sales ever for a debut album by a female idol group in South Korea. And their second EP, Get Up, expanded the group's international presence and reached number 1 on the US Billboard 200 albums chart, strengthening NewJeans as a major global act and one of HYBE's most commercially valuable artists. This background established the magnitude of ADOR's initial investments, the success achieved under its management, and the commercial scale of the relationship now under legal dispute. And then it talks about HYBE's audit and executive turnover within ADOR. So on April 7th, 2024, HYBE Corporation, ADOR's parent company, initiated an internal audit of ADOR and its CEO, Hee-jin. Following the audit, ADOR's board decided on August 27, 2024, to dismiss Hee-jin from her CEO position and appoint Kim Joo-young as the new CEO on the same day. For those of you who forgot, Kim Joo-young is this person who also had to appear in the national audit last year. The national audit where Honey also appeared. I think she did a phenomenal job. All right, later on November 20th, 2024, Hee-jin also resigned from her remaining position as internal director of ADOR's board. The audit and leadership transition would later form one of the main factual and emotional backdrops of the dispute, as the defendants argued that the dismissal of Hee-jin constituted a breach of their trust relationship with ADOR, while ADOR maintained it was a lawful corporate action unrelated to the group's contract. Next, defendants' rectification demands and notice of potential termination. On November 13, 2004, the 5 members of NewJeans, represented through their guardian, sent a contents-certified letter to ADOR pursuant to Article 15 of their exclusive contracts, a clause requiring the non-breaching party to give 14 days notice to remedy violations before termination could take effect. In that letter, the defendants, NewJeans, listed 7 specific grievances, demanding that ADOR take corrective measures within the 2-week period. These were collectively referred to as rectification demands. The grievances included the HYBE Music Industry Report, which contained the phrase "abandon NewJeans and start anew." new 버리고 새로 판짜면 될 일. And that was written on May 10th, 2023. Grievance number two. The ignore her incident, 무시해, in which Hani was allegedly told by a manager from HYBE subsidiary to ignore her in the hallway. 3. Defamatory remarks by a HYBE PR officer who allegedly minimized NewJeans' achievements in communication with the press. 4. Leak of trainee era photos and videos, allegedly originating from Source Music and published by Dispatch. Number 5. Unfair album pushing practices by HYBE that allegedly led to the undervaluation of NewJeans' sales and achievements. 6. ADOR's dispute with Dolphin Kidnappers, the creative studio that directed several NewJeans music videos. And 7. Belief Labs' alleged imitation of NewJeans' concept through its girl group Islet, thereby damaging NewJeans' brand identity. And a final request that ADOR reinstates Hee-jin as CEO. And the letter was officially delivered to ADOR on November 14th, 2024. I still remember that day. Now, here's ADOR's response and the defendant's termination declaration. So before the 14-day correction period that elapsed, ADOR issued its written response on November 28th, 2024 at 4 p.m., sending both a physical content certified letter and an email 2 hours later containing a comprehensive reply and investigative findings addressing each rectification demand. But at 8:30 p.m. on the same day, the defendants convened a press conference publicly announcing that HYBE and the current ADOR show no willingness to improve or even listen to our concerns. ADOR has neither the will nor the ability to protect NewJeans. At that press event, they declared the termination of their exclusive contracts with ADOR. Shortly after midnight, 0001 a.m. on November 29th, 2024, the defendants formally emailed ADOR stating, "The defendants hereby terminate the exclusive contracts with ADOR as of November 29th, 2024. Thus, even though ADOR had provided a formal reply within the required 14-day window, the defendants proceeded to announce contract termination publicly and in writing." And after that, ADOR immediately initiated legal action to affirm the validity of the contracts. On December 3rd, 2024, ADOR filed this civil lawsuit with the Seoul Central District Court, seeking judicial confirmation that the exclusive contracts remained valid. On January 6, 2025, ADOR also filed for a provisional injunction requesting the court to recognize ADOR as a rightful management agency pending the final ruling and prohibit the defendants from conducting any entertainment activities without ADOR's prior consent or approval. On March 21st, 2025, the court granted ADOR's injunction. The defendants filed an objection the same day, but the court dismissed it on April 16th, 2025. The defendants then appealed to the Seoul High Court on April 28, 2025, but the appeal was rejected on June 17, 2025. And through these consecutive decisions, the court repeatedly upheld ADOR's position, temporarily maintaining its management authority while the main case proceeded. And the above facts were accepted as undisputed based on documentary exhibits and the overall oral argument record. And here's a summary of the parties' claims. Okay, ADOR. Here's ADOR's position. ADOR argued that the defendant's termination notice was legally invalid under Article 15 because ADOR had responded within the 14-day grace period. And ADOR had not committed any material breach of the exclusive contracts and had consistently fulfilled its management duties. And since the defendants refused to recognize ADOR's authority despite the contract still being in force, the company sought judicial confirmation that the agreements signed on April 21st, 2022 were legally valid and enforceable. So, in essence, ADOR's case was grounded on, two facts: procedural invalidity, that the defendant's notice violated the correction procedure required under Article 15, and that ADOR had not failed in any contractual obligation sufficient to justify termination. Now, what about NewJeans' position? Through their legal representatives at Heejin law firm, they contended that ADOR had repeatedly and materially breached the exclusive contracts, both by action and omission, and as a result, the relationship of trust had completely collapsed, thereby entitling them to terminate the agreements. And they structured their argument into two main categories: one, material breaches, and two, irreparable breakdown of trust. In terms of material breaches alleged by the defendants, NewJeans, first of all, they talked about dismissal of CEO Hee-jin. The defendants argued that removing Hee-jin from her CEO position deprived them of their producer and violated the contractual obligation to manage them in good faith. And failure to protect the defendants from HYBE and affiliates. NewJeans accused ADOR of failing to act when, the 7 grievances. Should I even repeat these? You know what? I'm going to skip these. So, in NewJeans' views, these acts and omissions breached multiple provisions, notably Articles number 1, mutual cooperation, Article number 2, exclusive management obligations, and Article number 5, faithful management and promotion, and Article number 11, duty to act against infringement. And then, of course, they also talked about breakdown of the relationship of trust. And beyond specific breaches, the defendants argued that ADOR's actions, particularly its failure to defend them against HYBE's alleged interference and its dismissal of Hee-jin, whom they regarded as their creative guardian, had irreversibly destroyed the bond of trust necessary for any artist management relationship, and they claimed that HYBE, as ADOR's parent company, interfered with brand collaborations and deliberately marginalized the group. And after the defendants issued the termination notice, ADOR allegedly responded with a hostile stance, further proving that reconciliation was impossible. So, according to NewJeans, the contracts had already ceased to have legal force, as the trust and cooperation that formed their foundation were permanently broken. So, that's what the court has laid out in terms of the background information and context. And from here on, it's all about the court's decision, how the court made the decision and their analysis and their judgment. Okay? So here we go. This is the crown jewel. Let me have a sip of water. And interestingly, in this document, Hee-jin's name appears again and again and again, more than 100 times. And the court has correctly analyzed that Hee-jin is at the foundation of the entire case. So let's see what the court has said. Number Section number 3. 판단, analysis, or judgment. Upon review, as discussed, judgment. First of all, Ka or A, whether the exclusive contracts were rightfully terminated due to ADOR's breach. Upon review, as discussed below, the court finds it difficult to acknowledge that the plaintiff, ADOR, violated any material obligations under the exclusive contracts. Accordingly, the defendant's argument, which presupposes that ADOR committed such a breach, lacks merit. And here's a footnote. Footnote number 6. What does it say? Relevant clauses of the exclusive contract. If either party violates the contents of this exclusive contract, the other party shall first demand correction of such violation within a 14-day grace period. If the violation is not remedied within that period, the other party may terminate or rescind the contract and claim damages. However, termination or rescission shall be permitted only in cases of a material breach of the contract. So that's the footnote that the court added there. Now, 1. Allegation. About the allegation that ADOR committed a material management breach by ousting Hee-jin. The court said, It is acknowledged that Hee-jin, then CEO of ADOR, was deeply involved in NewJeans' artistic activities as their producer, and that the defendants, the members, placed a high degree of personal trust in her. However, in light of the following facts and circumstances established from plaintiff's exhibits, all the evidence, and defendant's evidence, as well as the overall purport of the oral arguments, it is difficult to conclude that Hee-jin's dismissal as CEO necessarily caused a vacuum in management duties toward the defendants, or that ADOR lacked the plan or capability to continue managing the group. Whether Hee-jin's role constituted an essential element of the exclusive contracts, the court said. 1. The exclusive contracts do not stipulate that ADOR must have Hee-jin personally carry out management duties for the defendants, nor can it be viewed that the purpose or motivation of the defendants in entering into the contracts was premised upon Hee-jin's individual involvement. 2. Article 2 of the exclusive contract provides that ADOR shall faithfully exercise its management authority so that the defendants may fully demonstrate their talents and capability. Article 5 further stipulates that ADOR retains comprehensive management authority over the defendant's education and entertainment activities. However, nowhere in the contract is there any provision requiring Hee-jin personally to carry out those management duties. 3. There is also no clause allowing the defendants to terminate the contracts in the event Hee-jin is dismissed as CEO or ceases to manage the group. 4. Therefore, even if the defendants had held personal trust and affection toward Hee-jin, such sentiment alone does not make her role an essential contractual element, nor does it create any contractual obligation for ADOR to guarantee her CEO position. There is no legal basis to interpret such as a material obligation under the exclusive contract. 5. The defendants argue that even if the contract lacks an explicit key man clause, when a contract is entered into based on mutual trust with a specific individual, termination following that individual's departure cannot be regarded as an unfounded refusal or performance. However, the court finds that the evidence presented is insufficient to prove that the defendants entered into the exclusive contracts based on personal trust in a specific individual, i.e., Hee-jin. Accordingly, this argument by the defendants is without merit. The court further notes that ADOR employed around 40 staff members dedicated solely to NewJeans, its only artist group. The defendants were provided with a dedicated fan communication app, phoning, luxurious accommodations, and exclusive facilities such as dance studios and styling rooms. They also received favorable treatment in their daily lives and artistic activities. Even before debut, the defendants were given opportunities to appear in the music videos of already well-known idol groups. Guess who they are? That's BTS. Yeah, Minji and Honey were in BTS music videos. It was permission to dance, right? Anyways. In light of these circumstances, ADOR appears to have made a substantial effort to provide management services for the defendants. In fact, the defendants achieved significant success immediately upon debut, and there is insufficient evidence to conclude that such success was solely due to Hee-jin's individual capability. 데뷔 직후부터 크게 성공을 거두었는데 이러한 결과가 미니진의 역할이나 능력에만 기초한 것이라고 단정할 증거가 부족함에도. Thus, the defendant's assertion that the dismissal of Hee-jin constitutes a material breach of the exclusive contracts cannot be accepted. Furthermore, as will be seen below, Hee-jin herself declined ADOR's offer to continue serving as producer for the defendants. Next section. Possibility of Hee-jin continuing producer duties. Even after her dismissal as ADOR CEO, Hee-jin could have continued participating in producer work for the defendants in her capacity as a board director. Therefore, it cannot be said that Hee-jin necessarily had to hold the position of CEO in order to perform producer duties for the defendants. 1. ADOR's internal director, Lee Do-kyung, explained the reasoning behind the proposal to dismiss Hee-jin from the CEO position at the board meeting held on August 27, 2024, as follows. She said, "The recent series of issues involving ADOR stem fundamentally from CEO Hee-jin's lack of experience in performing representative management duties, and more fundamentally from her dual role, serving both as a producer for the artist and as CEO responsible for corporate management and operations. These overlapping responsibilities have caused various operational difficulties. Therefore, separating the artist-related producing duties from the CEO's management and operational duties is deemed the best solution for the company and its artists. From this standpoint, CEO Hee-jin should focus on the producing work related to artists, while the CEO position should be assigned to another director with strong managerial capabilities to stabilize the company." By the way, Hee-jin didn't attend the board meeting, if I remember correctly. Either she joined through Zoom meeting, but she didn't attend in person, if my memory is correct. On the same day, the court said, ADOR's board resolved to dismiss Hee-jin as CEO and appointed Kim Joo-young as the new CEO. On August 27, 2024, ADOR sent Hee-jin a draft delegation of duties contract, which delegated the NewJeans producing duties to Hee-jin, specified her duties as NewJeans producing, set her base annual salary at, check this out, how much is this? 10만, 100만, $573 million and 683,161 Korean won. So let me 573 683 160 KRW to US dollars. That's around 400K, 400,000 US dollars. That's a base annual salary without bonus. So with bonus is much larger. That's the part of the contract that they suggested to Hee-jin after dismissing her as CEO. And they fixed the contract period from August 27th, 2024 to November 1st, 2024. This draft was intended to allow Hee-jin to continue her role as NewJeans producer. The defendants, the court notes, the defendants argued that ADOR's proposal amounted to a mere 2-month delegation contract insufficient in substance. However, the evidence shows that ADOR's intent was to ensure continuity of Minijin's remuneration and duties immediately following her dismissal as CEO by presenting a contract similar in structure and level of compensation to her existing one, covering the remainder of the ongoing term. On August 30th, 2024, CEO Kim Joo-young sent an email to Minijin explaining, so again, she sent an email to Minijin on August 30, 2024, saying, "It seems that there has been some misunderstanding regarding the proposed delegation contract. Until now, remuneration has been paid under the delegation of duties contract for the CEO role. Since you are no longer CEO as of August 27, 2024, a new delegation of duties contract is necessary. To prevent any gap in remuneration, we provided a contract of similar level and structure to the previous one, applicable for the remaining period. Similar contractual procedures are being followed for other newly appointed directors as well." So super interesting how the court even attached an email sent by Kim Joo-young to Minijin. Remuneration means payment for work or services. In case you don't know.
Remuneration.
All right, the court says, shortly thereafter, on September 11th, 2024, ADOR again proposed a delegation contract to Minijin. This time, setting the contract period until July 31st, 2029. The expiration date of NewJeans' exclusive contract to reaffirm the company's intent to entrust her with producer duties for the group. Even after Minijin later resigned from her board position, CEO Kim Joo-young once more emailed her, stating, "Although you have resigned as an internal director, my wish for you to continue working as NewJeans' producer remains unchanged. I have heard that you are still looking after the members in various ways. Therefore, I sincerely ask once again that you work with ADOR as NewJeans' producer." In light of these facts, and considering the circumstances acknowledged in subsections 2 and 3 below, the defendant's argument cannot be accepted. And let's read subsections 2 and 3. Number 2. After being dismissed as CEO on August 27, 2024, Minijin remained an internal director of ADOR, but declined the company's offer to enter into the above-mentioned delegation contract. And subsection 3 reads, subsequently, at the shareholders' meeting on October 17, 2024, ADOR included on the agenda the reappointment of internal director Minijin. Yes, I clearly remember this. The company requested that shareholders reappoint Minijin, whose term was to expire on November 1st, 2024, stating that her continued service as a director was necessary. All attending shareholders, including Minijin herself, unanimously approved the resolution to reappoint her as an internal director effective November 2nd, 2024. Nevertheless, on November 20th, 2024, Minijin voluntarily resigned from her position as internal director of ADOR. Yes, so what I clearly remember is that at the time, there were two kinds of people's responses. Some people were like, oh yeah, HYBE and ADOR are definitely playing 4D chess, deciding to reappoint Minijin as an internal director and even offering her producer role for NewJeans until 2029. But some people were like, oh my god, HYBE, ADOR, what are you doing? You cannot trust her anymore. You know you cannot trust her anymore. But it turns out all the decisions that HYBE and ADOR have made so far worked in court, right? As we have seen. The judge acknowledged these. And essentially the judge is saying that, look, even though NewJeans are saying all these things, but it was Minijin herself who declined all these offers and resigned to leave ADOR herself. It was her decision. All right, next. Possibility of ADOR's management service fulfillment. 원고의 매니지먼트 서비스 이행 가능성. The court said, it is acknowledged that for several months following Minijin's dismissal as CEO, ADOR did not appoint a replacement producer for her. However, this was because ADOR had already proposed that Minijin continue serving as producer for the defendants and was awaiting her response during that period. Moreover, even while the defendants were not cooperating with ADOR, the company continued to prepare for the release of the group's upcoming album, plan and organize a fan meeting in concert format, develop a world tour schedule, provide performance and event opportunities, and arrange advertising and commercial shoots for the members. Considering these efforts as a whole, it is difficult to conclude that the defendants could no longer expect ADOR to perform its management services under the exclusive contract, saying, yeah, ADOR did their jobs. ADOR is still doing their jobs as NewJeans agency. All right, next section, title: Audit and Dismissal Process of Minijin. Ooh. The defendants argued that starting in late March 2024, the parents of the defendants sent emails to Minijin asking her to resolve the issue of eyelid copying NewJeans' concept. In response, so this is what the defendants, NewJeans, have argued. In response, Minijin sent emails to HYBE on April 3rd and April 16th, 2024, demanding that HYBE correct its unfair actions. 5 days before NewJeans' comeback, HYBE then began a retaliatory audit against Minijin and subsequently replaced ADOR's board of directors. Again, what was just said was according to NewJeans' lawyers' arguments. But the court adds a magic word here. However, according to the contents of various conversations below, all the evidence, and there's also a footnote number 7. Let me see, where's the footnote? Footnote number 7. Under the principle of free evaluation of evidence in civil procedure, KakaoTalk conversations are admissible unless obtained in violation of Protection of Communication Secrets Act. The chats were lawfully collected during HYBE's audit with consent from Lee Sang-woo, vice president of ADOR at the time, one of the participants, for audit purposes. Hence, they are admissible. Yep, KakaoTalk has become evidence that the court has fully looked at. Now, the court says, the evidence indicates that Minijin had planned in advance to separate ADOR from HYBE. And to that, she, check this out, prepared a public opinion campaign, considered filing reports with relevant authorities and initiating legal action, and she sought to find investors to acquire ADOR. She further planned to use the parents of the defendants as public advocates, having them speak out on the eyelid copying issue in order to generate public sentiment that HYBE was treating NewJeans unfairly, all while she herself stayed in the background. Wow. In this context, Minijin's actions cannot be regarded as efforts to protect the defendants from ADOR's alleged breach of contract obligations as claimed by the defendants. Nowhere in recorded conversations between Minijin and individuals such as Lee Sang-woo is there any statement suggesting that her actions were intended for the protection of the defendants. Rather, the evidence shows that Minijin's intent was to make ADOR independent from HYBE, or alternatively, to lead NewJeans herself in breaking away from ADOR and HYBE. Therefore, given these circumstances, the court finds that the audit conducted by ADOR and HYBE against Minijin was not a retaliatory measure resulting from her April 3rd and April 16th, 2004 complaints. Instead, it was prompted by Minijin's own plans to orchestrate separation and external takeover attempts. Accordingly, the defendants claim that ADOR and HYBE conducted an unjust audit against Minijin is without merit. I would say this part of the court document is one of the most interesting ones and was one of the most striking ones because the court basically looked through everything and said that, yo, it was Heejin. After all, it was Heejin. All the BS that the Heejin's camps, Heejin supporters, NewJeans parents, or their allies, their supporters, whatever they said, it was Heejin herself who had planned everything. So all the measures that HYBE and ADOR have taken afterwards were because of that. Man. All right, next session. Around February 2024, Lee Sang-woo, who had been newly recruited by Heejin as vice president or deputy CEO of ADOR, said in a Kakao Talk group chat. See footnote number 8. Footnote number 8. It says, all coded statements below refer to messages exchanged in Kakao Talk chat rooms. Okay, here we go. What did they say? Lee Sang-woo said, making things difficult for them and gaining our freedom. That's my plan for ADOR. To this, Heejin replied, that would be nice, thereby expressing agreement with his statement. On March 29th, 2024, Heejin told Shin Dong-hoon, ADOR internal director, and Lee Sang-woo, change of plans. We're moving up the timeline. Send the first message on April 3rd. Don't talk to the press yet. We will prepare for the public narrative, media offensive. They will probably contact us around Monday, the 8th or 9th, but I think they will change their position. They will never admit anything or stay silent. When that happens, we go public, press campaign, lawsuit. Send our message, see how they respond, and then we make it public after the 11th. The timing will fit best. This message shows that Heejin advanced the schedule for starting a dispute with HYBE, planning a coordinated timeline for public messaging and potential legal action. On March 30th, 2024, Heejin told Shin Dong-hoon and Lee Sang-woo and Kim Ye-min, who is another ADOR internal director, I cannot be the one to raise objections. The mothers are freer, meaning the mothers of NewJeans members. She decided that the members' parents would directly raise objections to HYBE rather than Heejin or ADOR doing so themselves. Accordingly, on April 3rd, 2024, Heejin sent an email to HYBE forwarding the parents' complaints about ILIT's alleged copying of NewJeans' concept. Later, on April 8th, 2024, Heejin reviewed a draft letter prepared by Shin Dong-hoon, a letter from ADOR to HYBE that accused HYBE of unfair treatment toward NewJeans. She commented, shouldn't it say ADOR's NewJeans? If it's just ADOR, it doesn't have impact. The subject has to be NewJeans. That's what makes it sound spontaneous. The focus is wrong. The issue isn't the multi-label system. Why are we even talking about the problems of multi-labels? It should be about HYBE obstructing NewJeans' work and business. I said this over and over yesterday in the group chat. My view is that we file 1 or 2 key lawsuits and handle the rest through the media. This shows that Heejin intentionally, the court said, this shows that Heejin intentionally directed the message toward highlighting HYBE's obstruction of NewJeans, preparing for a media campaign while also anticipating litigation. On April 16, 2024, after receiving a reply from HYBE, Heejin told Shin Dong-hoon, Lee Sang-woo, and a lawyer, how about this time the mother send a reply to HYBE themselves? I think exchanging more documents is a waste of time. Let's get ready to launch the media offensive. 그냥 여론전 바로 돌입 준비하는 게. During direct conversations between the parents and HYBE, we might even find new angles to attack. Well, that's what she said to a lawyer, Shin Dong-hoon, and Lee Sang-woo. She then shared in the chat room the contents of an email she had sent to HYBE, which said, this is Heejin. This email is goose. this email excludes certain internal comments from ADOR that were not shared with the parents. But since CEO Park Ji-won of HYBE will be reviewing it, I will circulate this to all parents and arrange a meeting date. Afterward, she wrote in the chat, I have replied like this. It would look good if the mothers each respond separately saying they don't want to meet. Through these directions, Hee-jin outlined how the mothers should be used strategically in ADOR's dispute with HYBE. She also reviewed and discussed a draft email written by one of the mothers to HYBE, deciding whether to modify or include references to possible legal action. And that the court noted that this draft appears to have been sent to HYBE substantially as is. I just noted the court actually used the word using the mothers. Through these directions, Hee-jin outlined how the mothers should be used strategically in ADOR's dispute with HYBE. Man, that's what the court said. 피고들의 어머니들을 어떻게 활용할 것인지에 관하여 제안을 하였다. On the next day, April 17th, 2024, Hee-jin shared a draft complaint email intended to be sent to Kim Tae-ho, the CEO of Belief Lab, and told Lee Sang-woo, by the way, Belief Lab, Kim Tae-ho. Yep, that's him. Belief Lab is an agency for eyelid and hyphen. So on the next day, April 17th, Hee-jin shared a draft complaint email that she intended to send to Kim Tae-ho and told Lee Sang-woo, change the tone. Make it sound like a man. Maybe like one of the fathers. It can sound angry or even a bit old-fashioned, not feminine. Start with the strong first line saying that Kim Tae-ho's last email provoked more anger and revealed HYBE's attitude. Write something like, if we stay silent now, what guarantee is there they won't be copied again next time? Why must even the parents be forced to speak up? Make it sound indignant and scolding. So she gave such direction to Lee Sang-woo. And the court said, this indicates that Hee-jin personally instructed Lee Sang-woo to write the email to appear as if written by a father, fabricating an impression of parental outrage over Eyelid's alleged plagiarism of NewJeans. On April 20th, 2024, Hee-jin told Shin Dong-hoon and Lee Sang-woo several things. First of all, regarding HYBE's alleged album pushing practices or album dumping practices, she said, prepare a list of things we can signal the Fair Trade Commission FTC to investigate, what data to request, what areas to probe. We have to give them hints on where to start their investigation. They're not familiar with the inside details, so we need to filter and guide what to look into. Create an itemized list of what they should examine, even examples they can cite. When they make excuses, tell them to dig into this or that, go that far. Through these directions, Hee-jin not only planned to report HYBE to the Fair Trade Commission, but also began preparing internal materials to guide the FTC on which aspects of HYBE's business it should investigate, which is a form of preemptive coordination. 2. Shortly afterward, Hee-jin added, didn't I say this yesterday? Maybe I only told the mothers, not you. I'll screenshot it. The FTC report will come from the mothers. It wouldn't look right if the subsidiary filed it, meaning ADOR. The mothers already have all the internal emails anyway. They can expose things better. Their filing will also make us look innocent. If ADOR reports HYBE, people might accuse us of bad faith or say we are acting against the parent company. In other words, Hee-jin planned for the members' mothers to file the FTC complaint instead of ADOR itself, to avoid legal complications that could arise if a subsidiary, ADOR, were to formally accuse its parent company, HYBE. 3. In the same conversation, Heejin said, "It's all just tricks, so the Fair Trade Commission can't really do much. We're not actually looking for a corrective order. You get what I mean? Our main goal isn't to make HYBE change. Fixing HYBE would just be a side effect. Honestly, we don't even care about punishment or correction. What we really want is to make a public announcement. And we can delay that public announcement if needed. It's not like the parents are filing with the FTC and just waiting. It's more like we have already reported it to the FTC and now we're going to announce it publicly. Then how could the FTC just stay quiet when there's been an internal whistleblowing?" And the court said, this shows that Heejin's primary objective was not to remedy unfair trade practices or protect NewJeans from HYBE's alleged album manipulation. And the court also added, but rather to create external, there's a footnote, footnote number 9. It says, context of Heejin's reply. Okay, her response followed Lee Sang-woo's remark. It would be better to file a report with the Fair Trade Commission after review by the audit committee. Oh, okay, so that's the context. And that's why Heejin just explained, FTC, whatever FTC is going to do, it's not important. It's all about the optics. That's basically what she said. And it also implies that the so-called fair trade claim was used strategically, not to protect NewJeans, but to serve Heejin's broader agenda of confrontation and separation. Next. 4. When Lee Sang-woo again cautioned that an FTC filing could be risky, saying the risk from being tied up in an audit committee investigation might be smaller than the risk that come with using the FTC card, Heejin replied, "Being tied up in the audit committee isn't a risk. Losing our justification to make a public announcement is a real risk." And then she said, 1. Restore our reputation. Break the public perception that we approved eyelid copying us. 2. Use that momentum to hurt eyelids and HYBE's reputation. That was what she actually wrote. 이래 여파로 BP나 아일릿이나 하이브에 대한 평판 떨구기. Let me read that one more time. Use that momentum to hurt eyelids and HYBE's reputation. And 3. Draw a clear line between ADOR and HYBE. Expose at least part of what HYBE has done to us. This has to be made public for that purpose. That's also why I said we need an external apology. Once that happens, it will speed up alternatives like whether HYBE should sell ADOR or not. But if we stay quiet and just discuss things internally, like selling ADOR behind the scenes, then we will end up being the ones being sold. We will lose control. And the court says, this statement demonstrates that Heejin's true intent was to damage HYBE's public image and push HYBE toward selling ADOR, not to protect the defendants or address specific grievances. 5. Heejin also told Lee Sang-woo, about that investor you're meeting, be careful what you say. People might think we're stirring all this up because we want to leave. Don't let it look that way. Once the dispute escalates, investors will start showing interest anyway. The court said, this remark aligns with the prior message Lee Sang-woo sent to Heejin on March 19, 2024, where he reported meeting a contact who had discussed potential multi-billion won investment sources interested in K Entertainment. Lee Sang-woo had noted that financial investors, F5, would be easier and more flexible to work with than strategic investors, SI. Financial investors focus on profit and don't interfere in management. ADOR could grow independently from HYBE and eventually go public. That's what Lee Sang-woo said to Min-jin. Now, Min-jin's response shows that she was aware of and encouraged such independent planning, while being careful not to reveal this motive prematurely. Min-jin later instructed Lee Sang-woo, forget the FTC angle for now. Focus on whether we can file lawsuits for business obstruction or breach of duty. Look for any legal basis, corporate law, breach of trust, whatever. Just find evidence. Collect as much as possible. You did well finding that last one, but look for more crucial ones. The more, the better. And check this out. You found some in Slack. Slack is a messenger app that a lot of startups or companies now use. She said, you found some in Slack. There should be more in messages involving Le Seraphim, ADOR, NewJeans, or Islet. In fact, there's one more artist that the court document expressed as AY. No idea what the group is supposed to be. It could be any of HYBE artists. But yeah, Le Seraphim, Islet, and someone else. Could it be BTS? I don't know. And then she wrote, they cannot delete all their old Slack logs. So, and the court noted, this indicates that Min-jin ordered evidence collection targeting HYBE not to defend the defendants, but to find potential legal grounds to frame HYBE's actions as misconduct and thereby justify ADOR's separation from HYBE. And there's a footnote number 10. Exhibit E101 refers to internal Slack conversation records. Yeah, so Kim In-jung, who represents ADOR in this case, must have submitted a lot of evidence regarding this case. Anyways, we just saw the court, the judge, mentioning again and again all these things Min-jin did wasn't to protect NewJeans, but to damage HYBE's reputation. Again and again, the court noted that. This indicates that Min-jin did something not to defend the defendants, meaning not to defend NewJeans, but to find potential legal grounds to frame HYBE's actions as misconduct, and thereby justify ADOR's separation from HYBE, meaning going independent from HYBE and taking NewJeans away. The court says, the reasons that the defendants cite in this case as grounds for the plaintiff's alleged breach of contractual obligations appear, as shown above, to have originated from Min-jin's prior preparation work, specifically her meticulous review of documents shared among HYBE, ADOR, and NewJeans in order to identify elements useful for creating negative public sentiment against HYBE and for initiating litigation. 부정적인 여론 형성. Footnote number 11. Preparation of alleged breach claims. The reasons the defendants cite for ADOR's non-performance were largely the result of Min-jin's prior internal research. She meticulously reviewed documents among HYBE, ADOR, and the defendant to find issues useful for shaping negative public opinion and litigation grounds. Hence, many of the alleged breaches occurred while Min-jin was still ADOR's CEO, even though the defendants now claim ADOR's subsequent failure to act after her removal constituted a contractual breach. The court found such arguments inconsistent. Interesting. So the reasons that NewJeans have used to accuse ADOR were largely the result of Min-jin's prior internal research. Whatever she found to find issues useful for shaping negative public opinion about HYBE and litigation grounds. So, many of the alleged breaches occurred while Min-jin was still ADOR's CEO. But look how NewJeans are now claiming that ADOR's subsequent failure to act after her removal constituted a contractual breach. And the court looked through all that and said that, their arguments stay inconsistent. All these things happened while Heejin was still the CEO of ADOR. So why are you saying that her removal as CEO as breach, is considered as a contractual breach? Yeah, that's why. There's a reason why, the legal system has judges who can look through things. And it says, however, even if the circumstances alleged by the defendants concerning ADOR's purported contractual breaches were indeed as described above, the question of whether such breaches actually existed and whether they would thereby give effect to the defendant's notice of termination of the exclusive contract is a separate matter, the court said. Accordingly, the court will now examine whether the plaintiff, ADOR, truly breached its obligations under the exclusive contract and whether the trust relationship between the parties had been irreparably damaged, as NewJeans claim. And from here on, it's going to talk about the alleged breach of duty to take measures against infringement or obstruction by HYBE, Belief Lab, and Source Music. Okay? Part 1. Leak of defendants' training videos by Source Music and unauthorized posting by Dispatch. Based on the evidence presented and the overall arguments of both parties, the following facts and circumstances are established. 1. After Dispatch published photos and videos of the defendants during their training period, ADOR requested through HYBE's Digital Communications Office on July 23, 2024, that Dispatch suspend publication of such videos. Subsequently, on July 27th, Dispatch deleted 2 training videos of the defendants from its official YouTube channel. ADOR also took additional steps on July 29th and 30th to delete derivative videos uploaded by unidentified third parties that originated from the same source. On October 23rd and November 19th, ADOR again contacted Dispatch, requesting deletion of still images from the original article that captured scenes from the training videos. As a result, Dispatch applied blur effects to the defendants' faces appearing in those images. Around November 14th, ADOR appointed an additional external agency to handle content takedown requests related to the defendants' leaked training photos and videos. On August 16th, ADOR sent an email to Source Music asking for clarification on how Source Music's internal materials have been used in Dispatch's articles. Later, on August 30th, ADOR also sent an official letter to Dispatch requesting an explanation as to how the outlet had obtained and used those materials. Concerning all of the above, it is difficult to conclude that ADOR failed to take necessary measures regarding the leak of the defendants' training photos and videos. Therefore, ADOR cannot be deemed to have violated a significant contractual obligation under the exclusive management agreement. The defendants argued, however, that they had demanded ADOR take more substantial legal action, such as filing criminal complaints or civil claims for damages, and that ADOR willfully condoned and neglected the illegal acts of Source Music and Dispatch by failing to do so. According to Exhibit D34-2 evidence, the guardians of NewJeans Heejin and someone else told ADOR's representative Kim Joo-young and others on September 3, 2024, "Please take public action regarding the Dispatch incident. We plan to file a report with the police and ask them to find the real perpetrator." That's what the guardians of Heejin and probably Heejin and his Heejin. It is acknowledged that ADOR, beyond the measures listed in paragraph 1, did not file any criminal complaint or damages claim. However, based on the previously cited evidence and the overall arguments presented, the following circumstances are recognized. The exact cause of the leak of the defendant's training photos and videos to Dispatch has not yet been clarified. Under these circumstances, ADOR explained in detail to the defendants on September 25th its reasons for viewing a lawsuit against Dispatch negatively, but stated it would still provide support if the defendants insisted on pursuing litigation. It also appears that third parties had already filed complaints against Dispatch journalists and Source Music around September 2nd, 2024. Given these facts, ADOR's decision not to independently file criminal or civil actions cannot reasonably be regarded as tolerating or neglecting unlawful acts against the defendants. Interesting. And yeah, about that third parties who filed complaints, I think that's Team Bunnies or Heejin slash NewJeans supporters, if I remember correctly. But interesting. All right, move on. Next part. About the alleged defamatory remarks by HYBE's PR representative about the defendants. According to evidence or Exhibit D61, it is acknowledged that a PR representative of HYBE telephoned a reporter from the Seoul Sinmun newspaper, and while requesting a correction to an article dated July 17th, stated that NewJeans' album sales in Japan were not as high as reported in the article. Meanwhile, based on Exhibits D60 and 62 and the overall arguments of both parties, the following facts and circumstances are recognized. The July 17, 2024 article in question had reported that NewJeans' Japanese debut album sold more than 1 million copies in 10 days and achieved significant success in Japan, yet HYBE's share price fell to its 52-week low due to conflict between HYBE and Heejin. HYBE's corporate PR representative was in charge of correcting factual inaccuracies related to stock price reporting by clarifying background facts to journalists when HYBE's market valuation was discussed. And the court says, it is also difficult to regard the person, I think the person is Cho Sung-hoon, as an auxiliary performer of ADOR's obligations, acting in the course of supporting or assisting NewJeans' entertainment activities when making the above remarks. Given these circumstances, the court finds it difficult to conclude that Cho Sung-hoon's comment went beyond correcting factual inaccuracies about HYBE's stock price contacts, or that the statement constituted a disparaging or insulting remark toward NewJeans. Yeah, I still remember the case. Seoul Sinmun 장형우 기자. Yeah, this guy. How did he blatantly write a fake news? NewJeans is selling 1 million copies in Japan in 10 days, yet the HYBE stock fell to 52-week low. And then they're using this as evidence in the court. Unbelievable. All right, next part. About alleged violation of ADOR's duty to protect brand uniqueness. Talk about Belief Lab's concept and content imitation. Based on exhibits D18, 51, and 52, some similarities between NewJeans and ILIT's concept plans and photo shoots can indeed be identified. However, there is insufficient evidence to conclude that ILIT copied NewJeans' concepts, or is there other credible proof to support such a finding? 2. Even if it were assumed that ILIT had imitated NewJeans' concept, the following facts and circumstances, together with the overall arguments, must be taken into account. 1. The concept of a girl group cannot easily be deemed to fall under the categories of trademark rights, publicity rights, or intellectual property rights defined in the exclusive contract. Around April 2024, while still serving as ADOR CEO, Heejin sent emails to HYBE stating that Belief Lab and HYBE debuted ILIT by copying NewJeans' planning concepts, and subsequently issued official statements and held press briefings on April 22nd and 25th addressing the controversy. Thus, ADOR had already taken a degree of action regarding the issue at the time. At the defendant's request, NewJeans' request, Motivated by concerns about potential leaks of trade secrets, ADOR sent an email to Belief Lab on November 18, 2024, requesting confirmation of the facts, and another email to HYBE's security team on November 25, 2024, asking for tighter protection of NewJeans' project materials. Taken together, these circumstances show that ADOR did not fail to act on the alleged concept imitation issue to the extent of violating any major contractual duty under the exclusive agreement. And the court also adds, NewJeans have consistently claimed that ADOR faithfully fulfilled its duty to protect and support the members while Heejin served as CEO. However, the eyelid concept imitation controversy itself first arose during Heejin's tenure as CEO, and at that time, she did not take any legal action against Belief Lab, the agency about eyelid. Therefore, NewJeans claim that ADOR's failure to pursue new legal measures only after Heejin's dismissal amounts to a breach of duty is difficult to accept. Next, about the alleged harassment by employees of other HYBE affiliates. Based on the contents of Exhibits P29 and D56 and the overall arguments presented, the following facts and circumstances are recognized. There is insufficient evidence to conclude that an employee of another HYBE affiliate, specifically a manager from Isla's team, made a remark to defendant Honey, such as, "Just ignore her and walk past." No other reliable evidence supports this allegation. On or around June 2nd, 2024, Honey sent a KakaoTalk message to Heejin saying, "I think I heard Isla's manager say something like, 'Just pretend you don't know and walk past.' I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like that." Heejin then replied, "Ignore her. Is that what you mean?" Given the content of this exchange, it appears that Honey did not clearly hear or recall the alleged statement. Moreover, the word 무시해, ignore, which the defendants later cited as the basis of the harassment claim, was first introduced by Heejin, not by Honey. That same day, Honey also sent another message to Heejin, stating, "Among the three eyelid members, one looked away while greeting somewhat awkwardly, and the last one greeted me but seemed nervous." This indicates, the court said, that the eyelid members did, at least passively, greet Honey. Nevertheless, Heejin repeatedly messaged Honey, asking, "Did they all ignore you? Did all the eyelid members ignore you? Who was it that ignored you?" Although Honey initially said she was greeted by at least one member, she later responded, under Heejin's repeated questioning, "Two of them basically ignored me. The one who ignored me was member name, Deng Deng." The court document didn't show it. Given this sequence, it is highly plausible that Honey's recollection and expression of the events became distorted, the court said, through her conversation with Heejin, particularly since Honey was not fluent in Korean at the time. Later, Heejin summarized and reframed the situation to Honey as follows. "So, you greeted them first. Then you overheard the manager telling eyelid members to ignore you, and two members didn't return your greeting, with only one hesitantly nodding back. Does that sound right?" Through such messages, the court said, Heejin appeared to reconstruct the incident as if Honey had been subjected to direct hostile behavior despite Honey's own uncertainty about what had actually occurred. She is the queen of gaslighting. That's not what the court said. That's what I just said. Sorry. Next section. Furthermore, CCTV footage from HYBE's premises on May 27, 2024 at approximately 3:23 p.m. shows three island members bowing to greet Honey as they enter the building. Considering this and the absence of corroborating evidence, the court finds it insufficient to establish that Honey was subjected to verbal or psychological harassment by the island manager to the degree of constituting a violation of her personal rights. All right, this is getting ridiculous. All right, next. Even assuming, for argument's sake, that Honey did hear the island manager say, "Just pretend you don't know and walk past," but that the remark simply was not captured in CCTV footage, the following facts are also recognized based on Exhibits D58, 194, 195, and the overall evidence. What is it? The court said, around June 13th, 2024, immediately after receiving complaints from the NewJeans parents, ADOR requested HYBE to review the relevant CCTV footage. HYBE's security policy and building security teams subsequently located the video showing Honey's encounter with island members at 3:23 p.m. on May 27, 2024. The same HYBE security teams continued searching for any additional footage showing further encounters between Honey and island members as requested by ADOR. On August 14, 2024, ADOR's in-house director, Shin Dong-hun, and employee, BC, this is one of few people who I could not identify, personally viewed the May 27 CCTV footage together with Belief Lab staff. On August 31st, Honey herself viewed the same CCTV video with that employee, BC, during which BC reportedly complained to HYBE's building security staff that part of the footage appeared to be missing or not properly preserved. The court notes that HYBE's CCTV did not include audio recording, so even if the footage had captured the encounter, the island manager's alleged words would not have been recorded. Given these circumstances, the court finds that ADOR took sufficient measures to verify the facts based on Honey's statements. Therefore, it cannot be said that ADOR failed to take protective action or neglected its duty to safeguard the defendants. Next, dispute with key production partner and damage to the defendant's works. Here, they're going to talk about the dolphin kidnappers. Based on the content of Exhibits P 106, 107, 112, 113, and the overall arguments presented, the following facts and circumstances are established. Under the outsourcing contract signed between the ADOR and the music video production company, Dolphin Kidnappers, ownership and intellectual property rights of all deliverables produced during contract performance belong to ADOR, and Dolphin Kidnappers was prohibited from disputing or distributing or posting any deliverables online without ADOR's prior written consent. 돌고래 유괴단. That's the name of the production company that they're talking about, and this guy is the director, Shin Woo-seok. We have already talked about that guy on my channel. The court said, nevertheless, around August 31st, 2024, Dolphin Kidnappers uploaded the ETA Director's Cut video on its official YouTube channel without ADOR's prior written approval. As a result, Apple's US headquarters requested that ADOR either remove the video entirely or re-upload it after deleting all Apple branding elements. By the way, ETA Director's Cut music video, there's a footnote saying a collaboration project produced jointly by Dolphin Kidnappers, Apple, and NewJeans. Not the Director's Cut, but ETA music video. NewJeans, ETA, Apple. I think this is the one where they used Apple iPhones to film the entire music video. And why did Apple say that either take it down or remove any Apple branding? It's because at the end of the director's cut, the protagonist pushes the car fall off the cliff with a man's body trapped in a trunk. So i.e., homicide. And if I were Apple, I don't want to have my brand associated with homicide, even if just for a music video. But yeah, that's what happened. Considering these facts, the court finds that ADOR's actions taken against dolphin kidnappers for breaching the contract constituted a legitimate exercise of contractual rights, and therefore cannot be regarded a violation of ADOR's key obligations under the exclusive management agreement with NewJeans. Moreover, the submitted evidence does not prove that dolphin kidnappers possessed such exceptional production capabilities that it could not be replaced by any other production company. The exclusive contract between ADOR and the defendants does not specify that NewJeans music videos must be produced by a particular studio, or that NewJeans had the right to designate a specific production company. Accordingly, the mere fact that a dispute occurred between ADOR and dolphin kidnappers, which is a third party, not party to the exclusive contract, does not constitute a material breach of ADOR's obligations under the exclusive agreement. Next, about HYBE's allegedly hostile public relations strategy against NewJeans. 1. About alleged undermining of NewJeans through album dumping or album pushing, 밀어내기. Upon review, the available evidence is insufficient to establish that the so-called album dumping, which allegedly disadvantaged the defendants, actually occurred. Even if such album dumping took place as claimed, it would still be difficult to determine the specific harm caused to NewJeans or to identify what concrete protective measures ADOR could have taken. Therefore, ADOR's failure to take additional action against HYBE cannot, in itself, be deemed a breach of its contractual duties. Also, the defendants' own submissions indicate that this alleged album dumping issue originated while Hee-jin was still ADOR's CEO. As discussed earlier, Hee-jin treated the issue as a strategic weapon to attack HYBE publicly, not as an effort to correct unfair practices or address the NewJeans' alleged undervaluation. Therefore, NewJeans' argument that ADOR, under its new leadership, failed to properly address a problem that had already existed as part of Hee-jin's own public campaign against HYBE is unpersuasive. Given the context, it is unreasonable to expect ADOR to take aggressive action over an issue that Hee-jin had originally raised for political, not protective, purposes. The report, quote-unquote report, containing the phrase "abandon NewJeans and start anew." According to Exhibit P114, a HYBE internal report indeed contained the phrase, "It's fine to abandon NewJeans and start a new plan," or abandon new and start anew. However, based on the evidence cited earlier and the contents of Exhibits 115, 118, together with the full record of arguments, the following facts are recognized. 1. The statement appeared not in the section about NewJeans, but in the part of the report discussing another HYBE girl group, Le Sserafim. Reviewing the context, the report compared multiple girl groups, stating that Le Sserafim was blocked from taking the #1 spot on charts by IVE, while aespa was catching up in album sales, and concluded that grouping Le Sserafim with Blackpink, aespa, and IVE rather than with NewJeans might make more sense strategically. Thus, the phrase merely suggested removing NewJeans from the comparative grouping, not that HYBE should abandon them. When this report was circulated, Hee-jin herself was still ADOR's CEO, and she raised no objection or protest to HYBE regarding its content. HYBE had reportedly invested over 21 billion Korean won in NewJeans and had already achieved substantial commercial success with them. Therefore, it is highly implausible that HYBE would decide to drop NewJeans and redirect support elsewhere. Furthermore, the same report contained neutral or positive references to NewJeans, such as, "It will be good to build some light pre-comeback buzz before NewJeans' return," and also noted Competition among girl groups is intensifying, but NewJeans may face baseless controversies at comeback time, so preparations are essential. In a later May 17, 2023 HYBE Music Business report, HYBE even wrote, "In celebrity preference surveys, NewJeans still leads with 35%. Their broad public appeal remains strong, and maintaining this undefeated momentum is crucial." Taken together, these facts indicate that HYBE was not expressing hostility or withdrawal of support, but rather analyzing group positioning and marketing strategy. Therefore, even though ADOR did not lodge a protest against the report, it did not amount to a violation of any key obligation under the exclusive contract. Okay, we are almost done. Next part, about the termination of the exclusive contract due to breakdown of trust. It's interesting how, for this part, the court first lays out relevant legal principles. It says, the Supreme Court of Korea has held that in cases where a celebrity signs an exclusive management contract with the management company, under which management company, party B, we'll say, celebrity as party A and management company as party B, under which party B is entrusted with managing A's entertainment activities, and later A seeks to terminate the contract on the grounds of loss of trust, the following principles apply. An exclusive management contract, where the manager undertakes to faithfully perform the entrusted management duties for the artist, shares the characteristics of a mandate contract under the Civil Code. However, since the manager receives payment from the artist's total entertainment income, deducting expenses and remitting the remaining 50% to the artist on a fixed monthly date, and may also pay an exclusive contract fee to the artist, the relationship cannot be classified as a typical mandate contract under civil law. Instead, it constitutes a non-typical contract similar to a mandate, reflecting the specific practices of the entertainment industry. Furthermore, unlike a general mandate contract, an exclusive management agreement involves strong mutual economic and personal interest, and thus cannot be freely terminated at any time by either party. However, given that the contract still retains the essential nature of a mandate, termination does not require the existence of grave circumstances that make continuation impossible. Because an exclusive contract requires a high degree of mutual trust for its purpose to be fulfilled, and because the artist's obligations, such as exclusive performance and representation, are personal and irreplaceable, it would be an excessive infringement of the artist's right to personal autonomy to compel the artist to continue performing against their will merely because the situation does not meet the threshold of grave cause. Therefore, if the mutual trust between the parties is broken, the artist is entitled to terminate the exclusive contract, even if there is no separate grave reason beyond the collapse of trust itself. If in that particular case, so this principle was affirmed in Supreme Court decision 2019 September 10th, case number blah blah blah, among others. And in that particular case, the Supreme Court applied the principle where the management company had allowed the CEO's brother, who was indicted for sexual misconduct against a company trainee, to drive the car of a minor female artist who was a defendant at the time, which is an act infringing on the artist's dignity. And before the contract termination, the artist had already conducted independent activities for approximately 6 months, showing that the relationship of trust had already broken down. Now, specific findings. After reviewing all evidence and the overall context of the arguments presented, the court finds insufficient basis to conclude that mutual trust between the contracting parties had broken down. Therefore, the defendant's claim lacks merit. About circumstances from NewJeans' debut through late 2023. The defendants argued that from right before their debut in 2022 until the end of 2023, HYBE undermined their activities, specifically obstructing NewJeans' promotion before debut, HYBE chairman Bang Seok allegedly treating them unfairly or ignoring their greetings, failing to convey or even obstructing brand collaboration and ambassador offers, such as from Apple or luxury houses. However, the court found no sufficient evidence to support these allegations. In particular, regarding Apple's alleged proposal, the claim concerns a March 2022 offer, months before NewJeans had even debuted, or before the exclusive contract in question was signed. Therefore, an event that occurred before the formation of the exclusive contract cannot logically serve as grounds for claiming a subsequent breakdown of trust between ADOR and the defendants. About circumstances after HYBE's audit in April 2024 through November 2024, when the contract termination notice was issued, and issues following ADOR's leadership change on August 27, 2024. The court had already found earlier that ADOR did not breach its contractual duties regarding the plagiarism dispute with Belief Lab, alleged unfair treatment by other HYBE affiliates, defamatory remarks by HYBE's PR personnel, the alleged leak of training footage and photos, the dispute with the music video production company Dolphin Kidnappers, and the internal HYBE report that included the phrase "abandon NewJeans." As previously established, the audit of ADOR and dismissal of Heejin as CEO were not retaliatory measures, but part of HYBE's legitimate corporate governance process. Therefore, the court held that the audit cannot be interpreted as revenge by HYBE or ADOR that destroyed mutual trust. The defendants also argued that timing of the audit around April 2004, right before their comeback, made it retaliatory. However, the court noted that, according to the evidence, it was Heejin herself who initiated the public confrontation, media war, from around April 3rd and April 11th, not HYBE. Thus, this claim was also rejected. And the court further noted that while Heejin was still ADOR's CEO at the time, the defendants' claims were directed not at Heejin, but at ADOR and HYBE, excluding Heejin, which weakened their argument. About circumstances after the defendants' termination notice. The defendants contended that because trust is inherently an ongoing concept, events occurring after their termination notice should also be considered when assessing whether the relationship had irreparably broken down. However, the court held that when one party to an exclusive management contract unilaterally issues a termination notice and the other party does not agree, subsequent public disputes and litigation over the legitimacy of the termination are common and expected, especially in high-profile cases like this one, where public opinion becomes polarized. The court cautioned that if every post-termination conflict were accepted as proof of irreparable trust breakdown, then any party could manufacture an appearance of breach, issue a termination notice, intensify the dispute through media and lawsuits, and thereby escape the contract without any penalty or liability, which is exactly what NewJeans has been trying to do. And the court said, such an interpretation must be approached with extreme caution, as it would render the contractual termination clauses meaningless and make it practically impossible for agencies to enforce their rights under management contracts. Examining the actual circumstances following the termination notice, the court found that the incidents cited by the defendants, such as ADOR's injunction request to prevent NewJeans from independently performing or engaging in activities that violated the contract, the subsequent indirect enforcement proceedings, and the related main lawsuits were all part of the legitimate legal process. To determine whether NewJeans had breached their contractual duties by acting independently under Heejin's guidance. The allegations about Honey's personal information being leaked to the media were found to be mere speculation, not evidence. Therefore, the court concluded that the events following the termination notice did not demonstrate such a collapse of trust as to make continuation of the exclusive contract impossible. The defendants further argued that in determining whether trust has broken down, the key test should be whether the artist is being forced to continue performing under the contract against their free will. They claimed that since maintaining the contract would compel them to perform against their will, it constituted a violation of their personal rights, and thus trust should be deemed broken. The court acknowledged the general legal principle that forcing an artist to continue activities against their will against their will would indeed constitute an unacceptable infringement of personal autonomy. However, it ruled that this case does not meet that standard for the following reasons. In entertainment management, especially for artists who debuted under the agency's full investment, substantial financial resources are committed before the artist's success is guaranteed. The agency can recover those investments only if the artist succeeds under the agent system. If, after gaining fame and building a fan base with the agency's full support, an artist begins asserting decision-making power over personnel, content, and promotions, which are clearly within the agency's managerial discretion, and then claims personal rights violation when such demands are not accepted, assessing that logic would allow any artist to walk away from a binding contract at will, undermining the integrity of management contracts altogether, which is exactly something that the entire industry was worried about, right? And they have made statements about it, saying that, if NewJeans really walks away from this contract, then this whole industry will fall apart. Because what's the point of making contracts then? And the court said, thus, the court found it unreasonable to interpret ADOR's refusal to accept such demands as forcing involuntary activity in violation of the defendant's autonomy. According to the established facts, the defendants were attempting to exercise control over matters not included in the contract, such as ADOR's decision to dismiss Heejin as CEO, or ADOR's decision to discontinue collaboration with Dolphin Kidnappers following the dispute. These are managerial decisions reserved for ADOR under the contract. Therefore, the defendants' dissatisfaction with these outcomes does not mean they were being forced to perform against their will. In conclusion, the court ruled that the defendants' claim that continuing the exclusive contract would amount to coercion or violation of personal rights cannot be accepted. Boom. Sub-conclusion. Accordingly, the court finds that the defendant's notice of termination of the exclusive contracts has no legal effect. Therefore, the exclusive management contract remains valid, and ADOR continues to hold the position of management agency in relation to defendants, NewJeans members under said contract. 결론, final judgment. Since the plaintiff's claim is well-founded, the court upholds plaintiff's arguments, ADOR's arguments, and renders judgment as stated in the operative order. And then here are the footnotes that I already read you. Whew. How long has it been? 2 hours, I think. Anyways, I have learned a lot while reading this full document. And some might say that, we have already expected the judgment like this, but overall it's very well articulated. And you know how, of course, the original judgment was written in Korean, so it doesn't have the word however, but you can see the rhythm, right? The way the judge laid out the logic, even though NewJeans camp said these and things, and it is acknowledged that at least some sort of part are, facts. However, even if it's that true, something like that, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, I already read you the ADOR statement, and Dispatch recently wrote this article, so I think I can briefly read you this. NewJeans loses contract battle against ADOR. Court rejects all 10 claims. So basically, it summarizes what I just read you. NewJeans has failed in its attempt to terminate its exclusive contract with ADOR. The court ordered NewJeans to bear all legal costs, stating that ADOR did not violate any major contractual obligations and that the relationship of trust between the parties had not been broken. The court spent about 40 minutes reading a detailed summary of the ruling, highly unusual for a civil case, and systematically went through NewJeans' 10 arguments, rejecting every one of them. About dismissal of CEO Hee-jin, the court ruled that Hee-jin's dismissal did not create a management vacuum. The exclusive contract did not require that she personally serve as CEO or manage the group. ADOR had even offered her a new producer delegation contract, which she declined. Later, ADOR tried to reappoint her as an internal director, but she resigned on her own. About ADOR's management duties. NewJeans argued ADOR failed to fulfill its duties after Hee-jin's dismissal. The court disagreed, noting that ADOR continued management operations, including album preparation, performance planning, world tour scheduling, and advertising work, while waiting for Hee-jin's cooperation. 3. Legitimacy of HYBE's audit and Hee-jin's dismissal. The court found HYBE's audit justified, citing Kakao messages between Hee-jin and ADOR's vice president Lee Sang-woo as evidence of Hee-jin's plan to separate ADOR from HYBE. The chats showed that she prepared a media campaign, FTC complaints, and investor outreach while using parents of the members to create public pressure against HYBE. The court concluded that HYBE's audit and ADOR's actions were legitimate responses to her attempted independence. 4. Dispatch trainee video leak. The court ruled that the leak of trainee videos could not justify contract termination, as HYBE and ADOR had requested deletions and blurring of all related content from Dispatch. Alleged disparagement of NewJeans' achievements. A high PR staffer had called a Seoul Shinmun's reporter to correct an exaggerated report on Japanese album sales. The court said this was not defamation, but a factual correction to prevent investor confusion. About eyelid concept copying claim. While acknowledging some visual similarities between NewJeans and eyelids, the court found no evidence of plagiarism. Girl group concepts are not legally protected intellectual property, and ADOR's response was adequate. About the Honey's ignore her incident. The court found the ignore phrase was first used by Hee-jin, not Honey. CCTV footage showed eyelid members bowing to Honey, and Honey's uncertain recollection may have been distorted through her chat with Hee-jin, who reframed the situation as deliberate hostility. About dispute with dolphin kidnappers. ADOR's removal of the ETA director's cut video, uploaded without permission, was a legitimate contractual action. The conflict did not amount to breach of management obligations. About album pushing or album dumping and unfair prioritization. The court said there was no proof HYBE deliberately sidelined NewJeans. Evidence showed Hee-jin used this album dumping claim mainly as a political tool against HYBE, not to protect the group. About abandoned NewJeans report. The controversial phrase came from an internal HYBE report comparing girl groups and was not directed at NewJeans negatively. The court noted that Hee-jin, who was then still ADOR's CEO, had raised no objection when she received the report. Given HYBE's 21 billion Korean won investment in NewJeans, the idea that it would abandon them made no sense. And the court's final judgment was what? The court concluded that ADOR did not breach any key contractual duty and that the relationship of trust had not been destroyed. Therefore, the exclusive contract between ADOR and NewJeans remains valid, and ADOR remains full management authority over the group. NewJeans must not engage in independent activities without ADOR's prior approval until the main clause is finalized. There you go. So, what do you think? In summary, NewJeans' claims were all rejected. The court heavily referenced evidence showing Minijin's prior planning for independence. And the Dispatch article says that her name appeared more than 104 times in the court documents. But when I did a Command F thingy, it appeared more than that. But anyways, and ADOR achieved a complete legal victory, while NewJeans faces restrictions on any activity, pending appeal. After reading the full judgment, what do you think? Do you think the court made the right decision? And how was the logic? Was there any part of the ruling that surprised you or changed the way you saw this case? And what was the most memorable part of the decision for you? And leave your thoughts in the comment section. I wonder how many of you have watched this video so far to this end. Great job if you have stayed with me till the end. But it's a long document. But now we have basically seen everything, right? The arguments from both sides and the evidence that the court reviewed and how it all came together in the final ruling. And what's really impressive is how methodical the court was, because they didn't just side with one party. They went piece by piece, examining every claim that's been, floating around online for months. And in the end, the conclusion was crystal clear. What? ADOR didn't breach its contract, the trust wasn't destroyed, and NewJeans' termination notice had no legal effect. And one more thing, this woman, Hee-jin, was at the root of everything. Leave your thoughts in the comment section, and as always, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Peace, love. Bye-bye.